We went down there because we were bored and because we thought we understood cities better than most people. I was living in Shanghai at the time, and my friend Lin had grown up there, which gave me a false sense of security. When someone who knows a place tells you something is manageable, you tend to believe them, especially if you already want to. The tunnels were part of an older flood and utility system beneath the city, not the metro, not the polished underground people associate with Shanghai, but something older and less defined. Lin had heard about them through a friend who worked maintenance years earlier. Nothing dramatic, just tunnels that still existed and weren't talked about much. That should have been enough to stop us. We entered through a concrete access point, hidden behind a service building near a busy road. Cars passed above us constantly, and that noise made everything feel safer, like the city was still watching over us. The door wasn't locked. I remember noticing that immediately, feeling a flicker of unease that I dismissed because it didn't fit the story I wanted this to be. Inside, the air was colder than I expected, but not damp. The tunnel was wide, tall enough to walk comfortably, and clean in a way that didn't feel abandoned. The walls were smooth, the floor dry, the ceiling lined with pipes and cables that disappeared into the distance. Everything felt functional, like it could be used again at any moment if someone decided it should be. We walked side by side, talking quietly at first, pointing out markings and numbers painted on the walls. Lin explained what some of them meant: old references, outdated systems, things that no longer mattered. The sameness set in quickly. Every stretch of tunnel looked almost identical, and after a while, I stopped feeling like we were moving through space and started feeling like we were suspended inside it. I checked my phone out of habit and felt my stomach tighten when I realized how little time had passed. It felt like we'd been walking much longer. Lin noticed it too, but shrugged it off, saying underground spaces mess with your sense of time. He said it casually, but his voice wasn't as confident as it had been earlier. We should have reached a junction by then. Lin was certain of it. He stopped walking and stared down the tunnel ahead of us, then behind us, as if the tunnel itself might explain where it had gone wrong. I watched him check his phone, not for signal, just for reference images he'd saved. He frowned, zoomed in, then out, then locked the screen without saying anything. I asked what was wrong. He hesitated before answering, and that hesitation scared me more than anything else so far. He said the spacing didn't make sense anymore, that the tunnel felt longer than it should be. We kept going anyway, because turning around felt dramatic, and because nothing concrete had happened yet. That's how people get stuck in bad situations, convincing themselves they need proof before they're allowed to feel afraid. The light started to bother me next, not because it flickered or failed, but because it didn't behave the way it should have. Our flashlights illuminated the walls, but the beam felt shallow, like it wasn't reaching as far as before. When I pointed my light down the tunnel, the darkness ahead felt heavier, closer, like it was pushing back. I stopped and shined my light behind us. The tunnel looked wrong. The light faded much sooner than it should have, as if the tunnel bent sharply out of sight, even though I knew it didn't. When I walked a few steps back, the view corrected itself, stretching out again. I didn't say anything, afraid of how it would sound out loud. Lin noticed my silence. He asked if I was okay. I said yes too quickly. We reached a section where the walls were smoother, almost polished, and I felt an unexpected wave of panic that I couldn't explain. Something about that finish made it feel intentional, like this part of the tunnel was meant to be experienced, not simply passed through. Lin slowed down, his shoulders tense now, his earlier curiosity gone. That was when he said he thought we'd passed the same marking twice. I looked at the wall and saw the number he was talking about, painted high up in faded red. I remembered it because I'd noticed the way the paint had dripped slightly at the bottom. I also remembered seeing it earlier. Neither of us laughed. Neither of us tried to explain it away immediately. We both stood there, staring at it, letting the implications settle. Underground, without windows or reference points, repetition is terrifying. It means your sense of progress can't be trusted. Lin said quietly that we should go back. The word back felt strange. I realized I no longer knew which direction that was supposed to be. Forward and backward had lost their meaning somewhere along the way, replaced by a single, continuous stretch of concrete that felt like it could go on forever. We turned around anyway. Walking back felt different. It felt wrong. The tunnel felt subtly sloped in a way it hadn't before, and my legs burned faster than they should have. I became acutely aware of my breathing, my heartbeat, the way fear tightens your chest before your mind fully accepts it. I asked Lin if he was sure this was the way out. He didn't answer immediately. When he did, he said he thought so, but his voice shook on the last word. That's when panic started to rise properly, hot and uncontrollable. I felt it crawl up my spine, into my throat, making it hard to swallow. I tried to slow my breathing, afraid that if I let myself spiral, I wouldn't be able to stop. We walked faster, not running. Running felt like admitting something was very wrong. We didn't want to do that yet. Minutes passed, or longer. I don't know. Time had stopped behaving in any way I could rely on. Every stretch of tunnel looked familiar now, like a distorted memory repeating itself. I felt dizzy, disoriented, like the space was pressing in, even though nothing had physically changed. I asked Lin again if he recognized anything. He stopped walking. When he turned to look at me, his face was pale, his eyes wide in a way I'd never seen before. He said he couldn't tell anymore, that he'd lost the thread of where we were, that everything looked the same. That was the moment fear became overwhelming. Fear of becoming two people, walking until exhaustion, until panic turned to numbness, until mistakes became inevitable. I felt tears in my eyes and hated myself for it. I didn't want to break down underground. I didn't want Lin to see that I was close to losing control. We stopped talking after that. Eventually, and I still don't know how, we saw a change. A different set of pipes, a subtle shift in wall texture, something unfamiliar in a way that felt hopeful instead of threatening. We followed it desperately, clinging to that difference like a lifeline. When we finally saw daylight, it didn't feel real. The brightness hurt my eyes. The noise of traffic sounded aggressive and overwhelming after the silence below. We stood there for a long time, without speaking, letting our bodies calm down enough to function again. Neither of us suggested going back to figure out what had happened. We didn't need answers. Even now, years later, what stays with me isn't a specific moment or image. It's the feeling of realizing that familiarity can dissolve without warning, that space can turn against your expectations, and that fear doesn't always arrive with a clear trigger. Sometimes it arrives quietly, and by the time you recognize it, you're already deep inside it. Thanks for watching No Sleep Tonight. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It truly helps this channel grow. And if you want more unsettling stories, there are 2 more waiting for you on the screen right now. I'll see you in the next video. And until then, sleep well.